Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So glad you're here. If you're into true crime, but you like to skip the sensationalism, the fluff, and get right into the nitty gritty of things, you have found the right spot, and I'm really glad you did. Thank you for being here. Today, we are swinging back to the case of Judge Kevin Mullins. Let me bring him up here real quick. Judge Mullins was shot to death on September 19th of 2024. It happened at the hand of his buddy, the sheriff of the county, guy named Mickey Steins, and there is no other person in this world who knows this case any better than my guest tonight. You know her from Hillbilly Crime on YouTube, Elizabeth Jones. Thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me back.
You're gaining some popularity. I'm seeing you on other places on YouTube. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Pretty fun stuff. Okay, so we were talking before we came on live, and some information has dropped recently that kind of surprised you, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I did. So News Nation dropped a story that had given claims that Mickey Steins had a bad temper. And that just really surprised me. I've never heard that.
You live in the area, right? You live in Letcher County.
Hmm.
Do you know Mickey Steins?
I do. I know Mickey and Kevin. Um, I live about 2 miles down the road from where Kevin lived. And who doesn't know Mickey if you live here? A lot of times that's who people called if you needed help with something, police related. If you needed police, a lot of times you just send a messenger message to him.
Like
And
Facebook Messenger?
yeah,
You could just reach out to him and say, "Hey, I got issues."
yeah, it's very low key here. It's laid back here.
Yeah. No, well, you and I live in very similar places. I think my area is a little more is a little bigger, but not by much. Still, though, I don't think that I could reach out to my sheriff. I think I should. I think I would have to call like 911 or call the sheriff's office or something like that. I don't think I could just reach the sheriff.
Well, we have learned, that's one thing me and one of my neighbors recently have learned is the downside of doing it the way that we've all tended to do it, um, is that there's no record. If you don't call 911, then they can't put a cat out, I guess is what they call like their report.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you call 911, that creates a report of the problem.
Of
And
what
so
it is.
when you're sending a messenger, a Facebook messenger to somebody, that's not really creating a report. So then whenever you need, proof of that, you don't have it. So I've learned a big lesson.
Well, but getting back to this whole idea that Mickey Steins was somebody with a temper. I mean, when we look at this video, kind of seems like he has a temper. I mean, it does seem kind of like he snapped, right?
Well, but if you notice one thing about that video, he's not aggressive. He's not in any aggressive manner. You don't see him getting in a hurry. You don't see him, he doesn't look to me like he's like completely out of control, you know?
Uh, this, like, let me just pause this I'm going to rewind. This, while I agree with you that I don't see aggression, it certainly shows that he was planning something, because if he draws on Judge Mullins right now, Judge Mullins could reach out and touch his firearm. Watch him walk back.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I've said the exact same thing, Fish.
yeah,
Why didn't Judge jump up and try to wrestle, try to fight, try to get
yeah,
away?
yeah. In these kinds of situations, the closer you can be, the safer you are.
That's
Uh,
true.
so, yeah. So this idea that Judge, or not Judge Mullins, that Mickey Steins had a temper, that doesn't ring true to you.
Not to me, but I wasn't really close with him or anything. But I've seen him arrest people before, and Mickey wasn't the type of cop that gets all up in your face, disrespectful and, throwing you around and
Hmm.
being a bully. He wasn't that type of person that I saw.
That sounds well. We talked about this on my channel last night. We were looking at the video of the beating, the killing of a man named Robert Brooks in New York State prison. It was a bunch of prison guards like beat this guy up, and we talked. I'm I'm understating it. They killed him by they beat him to death, and it's all on video. And we talked about that, me and my viewers, like this is not the kind of personality that you want in law enforcement. You want somebody, or in corrections, you want somebody who it's really hard to get under their skin. They don't take it personally,
Yep.
and it sounds like that's the kind of guy that Mickey was.
That's what he seemed to me to be like.
So what do you think? I titled this video "Snapped," or I put it on the thumbnail anyway. I do think that this looks. I don't know if it looks pre-planned. It looks like they're. I don't think that he went in there saying to himself, "I'm going to go kill the judge." It looks like in that moment as they're talking, he just decided, you know what, I'm going to kill the judge.
Well,
What
if
was
you
it?
notice right there, when it looks to me like he pulls his weapon and holds it down to his side
Oh, let's see.
because see,
Oh, let's see.
he
Let's see.
doesn't just he doesn't pull it
He
as
has
soon
it
as
in his hand right there, huh?
yeah.
I hadn't
I think
noticed that before. Yeah, he had it. He's not drawing it from the holster right there. He has it at his
he's
side.
already got it
I
in his
had
hand.
not noticed that. So the judge already knew there's an issue. He had his weapon unholstered.
That's what it looked like to me.
Oh. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
And look,
well,
he
I don't know.
starts to go out the door, and
Yeah.
something catches his attention. I don't know if he heard the judge or what, but something catches his attention before he goes out that door, and that's when he bends down. Not this one; it's the next time.
Yeah.
That's when he comes back and bends down and shoots again. Right here, he goes to go out
Right.
the door, and something
Oh,
catches his attention.
yeah.
He stops and bends down and
Yeah,
does
let's
it.
let's go back to that spot. He's like, "Oh, right there.
Yep,
Maybe I'm not done here."
yep.
Okay.
And
Now,
he's not running.
yeah, I had wondered that because I've watched this video now on a loop hundreds of times. At first I did kind of feel like, "Oh, he's trying to get out of Dodge," but he really isn't, right? He's just it's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to leave this office now. Maybe I'll I, yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, any indication from, talking with people on the ground out there, uh any indication as to why? I mean, this sheriff was friends with Judge Mullins.
Yeah, they were friends. I had heard a report that they were good coworkers and friendly, but that they weren't exactly friends.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know if that's exactly true. I think they were friends. But, I mean, it's all my opinion.
Sure. Well, I was thinking, I have a friend, let's call him my friend. Like, we're friendly for sure, that we worked together for like 10 years, and we had good time. We traveled the world, on business together. We had a lot of fun times, but as soon as we got home, man, he went to his house, I went to mine. I didn't even think about him until the next morning when I went to work. So
Right.
we were work friends, not really hang out friends or go out to dinner friends or, get couples together kind of friends. I wonder if that's a better description of what Mickey Steins and Judge Mullins were.
I don't know. I had spoke to a coworker of both of theirs, and I asked them about that. Very same report that I heard, and they said they didn't think it so either. They said that they thought they were friends.
Hmm. So you brought up before the show started another part of the report. I mean, part of that News Nation report is that Mickey Steins apparently had a temper. Uh, you don't. It sounds to me like that probably is not the case. And by the way, no casting shade on the reporter. She reported, or the producer. She reported what somebody told her, right? And that's what
Absolutely.
she reported. And that's great. That's good reporting. But what was the other part of that of her
Uh,
report?
well, the way that I perceived it was that they were really focusing on Judge Mullins as being more of a an architect or organizer of some larger.
I get conspiracy or
Yeah,
something, right? Okay.
yeah, with involving like with Benfield stuff.
Okay. So just a real quick summary, just for anybody who's watching that is not up on the case. Let me just give you like the 10-second. I'm going to try. Okay. This guy is a guy named Ben Fields. He was a deputy. He was a deputy sheriff of Mickey Steins. And when Mickey Steins previously worked for Judge Mullins as his deputy, when he got the job as sheriff, it was his deputy, Mr. Fields, that got the bailiff job, right? And
Mhm.
then Mr. Fields was eventually convicted of of SA and a couple of other charges where he was extorting women in the Letcher County Jail, which is in the basement of the courthouse, for sex because he was the guy that was like the ankle monitor guy, right? And
Mhm.
those women, two of whom are suing Mr. Fields and Mr. Steins. One is named Sabrina Atkins, the other, the late Jennifer Hill. Mr. Pillersdorf, her attorney, did confirm with me that she died of a drug overdose. But her estate is still suing Mr. Fields. Anyway, Mr. Fields was extorting these people, and one of the women, Sabrina Atkins, said, "I saw a video of Judge Mullins having sex with one of the girls from the prison in his chamber." That was way more than 10 seconds, but that was as fast as I could get it, Elizabeth. Um, so she claimed that Judge Mullins was in on it. What News Nation is reporting is that he was like the architect, right?
That was my word, not theirs, just to be clear. But, one of the biggest things I want to point out about that Sabrina, or what had come out in Sabrina's interview, whenever they went to interview the Chad Brown guy who supposedly had these recordings, he denied that he had any video recordings. He said that he had a part of an audio, I think is what he said. But he wasn't interested in handing it over. So I think it pretty much ended that part of the investigation there.
Have you listened to the interview with Chad Brown?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, neither have I. And the way that Ned Pillersdorf described it was that the interview with Sabrina Atkins was what's called a proffer, where she's able to say whatever. It can be third, fourth party hearsay, right? But none of that would be admissible unless the detectives found more information. But what is your opinion? I mean, does it pass the smell test for you that Judge Mullins would be part of it?
Well, I have never seen Judge Mullins act or behave in any misconduct. I've just never seen that. I thought Judge Mullins was a good judge. I thought he was a fair judge. Um, he was always really respectful. Anytime I ever spoke to him, he listened to me. I didn't feel like he was dismissive of anything that I'd ever tried to talk to him about. Um, I have said before that, yes, I have heard rumors about the judge's chambers for years. Now, I never heard who was using the chambers, just that there have been rumors about the chambers in the courthouse for a very,
What
very
rumors? What would the rumors say?
that's where some sexual conduct was being
Yeah. Okay.
done.
Yeah.
But I never really heard who was in there, just that, I've just always I've heard rumors about it for years. Um,
The chambers were a place where sex happened.
hmm
But was
yeah.
it anything that indicated that there was some kind of illegal activity, like what Mr. Fields was convicted of?
Well, um, I think that corruption has been a big topic here in this area for a very long time.
Okay.
Um, so anytime you heard a rumor or something, it was just throw it on the pile of the rest of them. I wanted to point out two things. One, in the investigation, in the interview with, I think it was Sabrina's interview, um, she said that she had heard when she went to jail, she heard the rumors that you could um, do this with Ben if you
Mm.
didn't have enough money. You could trade the favors.
That it was known. Yeah.
So that means that there had to have been previous people before her
Yes.
that had engaged in this activity, right?
Yes.
Or who was coerced into this activity. Well, you don't see any of those people coming forward. And the second point that I wanted to bring out was, and I didn't bring this up until I heard Ned talk about it on one of his interviews. He said that it was in his civil lawsuit that Jennifer Hill, I think is who it was her boyfriend, had went to the sheriff's department to try and report what was happening to his girlfriend.
Hmm.
And he ended up later being pulled over by a deputy or two. I heard it was two of them, and they threatened him to be quiet. Um, I'm not exactly sure word for word how it said there in the civil suit, but that was what I got from Ned's interview, and that it's in the civil suit. Now, it's an allegation, of
Sure.
course,
Sure.
it's not proven. Whenever they go to court, that stuff will be, figured out in court.
That is
But
something that Ed brings up anytime. Like I've talked to him twice, and he said, in fairness, this is an allegation. Judge Mullins isn't around to defend himself,
that's
right?
right.
Uh, and then, of course, in the lawsuit, Mickey and Ben will have to defend that in court. It's just an allegation. But he did point out to me that his belief is that there are many other victims, like
Yeah,
many other victims. If there are, I mean, his two clients are 2/3 of the number of people that Ben Fields was convicted of abusing. Right,
yeah.
there was another person, uh, and I have to agree when you're talking about actually it can be any place. It can be a small town. It can be a big town. Sometimes there just is a cabal of people that are in charge that they in big places like I'm from Sacramento, California, which isn't a huge place, but in the greater Sacramento area, there are a couple of million people. But it's the same five names that you see as president pro tem of the Senate, mayor of the city, the speaker of the House. It's just like this rotating thing. Everybody knows everybody, and in big cities like San Francisco was Willie Brown for years and years and years. It just so it doesn't. It's not that it just has to be a small town, but in this case, I mean, Judge Mullins was the judge there for how many years?
He was an assistant prosecutor for several years, and then he was appointed in 2009 by
Okay,
Andy Bashir's father. Andy Bashir is our current governor,
he's the governor.
and his father was governor at that time. So he appointed him in 2009, and then he ran in the election in 2010, and he won. And he's been I don't even think he's been opposed in any elections. I could be wrong about that, but I don't remember
So he's
anybody
been
ever
a judge
running.
for 15 years. Prior to that, he was in the prosecutor's office. And then Mullins was, I mean, how long was he a sheriff? It was, how long?
Mickey. Well, Mickey was his Judge Mullins's bailiff in the district court for about 10 years, and then or longer. And then he ran for sheriff in 2018 and won, and
Okay.
he's been sheriff ever since.
Yeah. Who else? I mean, that seems like a pretty small crew, right? I mean, you've got the sheriff's office, you've got the court, you've got the prosecutor's office. Maybe the city police. Is there city police there in Whitesburg?
There is.
Yeah, they're probably pretty tight with the sheriffs.
I'd
Mm.
say they are all very oh, they're all kind of a big bunch, and one of the things that happens a lot around here, they'll leave one department and go to the
Right,
different one.
right.
So if they get fired from Jenkins, they can go get on at the sheriff's department, or if they leave the sheriff's department, maybe they'll go to Neon City Police. We have a whole bunch of little bitty towns within Letcher County, and so
I would
you've got
imagine
to
these departments are small, right? We're talking
mm,
like 4 or 5 cops, something like that.
one.
Oh, one cop.
Some of them, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
yeah. Jenkins
So,
only has one police officer right now.
so not making any allegations towards any of them, but when you're talking about power in the town, if they're there for 10, 15, 20 years, they'll have power in the town, right? That's
Yeah, and something else that happens a lot around here is generational power. So, one person, you might have had someone who was a coal mine operator, owner, and then their kids, they've got power from the coal mine. And then their kids ended up going into politics, and then their kids go into politics. And it's just, a family business.
so. What do you? Let's just assume here for a second that there are other victims. I think it's. I think if there's one, there's two. If there's two, there's three. If there's three, there's 10. Right? It, like when I talked with Ned, and I sincerely believe this. His clients coming forward, and the other woman that came forward in the indictment against Mr. Fields, that took a lot of courage to come forward. I would expect, though, that with 3 people having come forward, there'd be kind of an avalanche, but it doesn't seem to have happened.
No, it sure doesn't. That surprised me too.
Why do
It,
you think that is?
I can honestly say that when I listened to those interviews with the Attorney General's office, that detective, Matt Easter, I understand the tactics and stuff that he used with Ben to get him to confess,
Yeah.
basically.
Come on, buddy. It'll feel better. Yeah.
I've done things like this myself,
Yeah, of
which,
course. Everybody has. We all do this.
but I believe I wasn't too impressed with the interviews with the women. I believe if they would have had a female detective that was trained to speak with victims
Hmm.
and addicts, because you have a lot of women who, prostitution has been the longest profession
Yeah, it's the
in
world's
time.
oldest profession. Yeah.
So you have women that live in that addictive lifestyle. And, you really need to know how to talk to people like that. He sounded more like a disappointed father, you
Hmm.
know, trying to say, "Oh, I ain't judging you. I'm not judging you." I just think that if they would have had someone more trained in dealing with victims, and someone who a female, they needed a female, in that, it's my opinion. But I think they would have gotten clearer answers. I think if they had the knowledge on what questions to ask, because I
Yeah.
don't think he asked the right questions. I think he cut her off at times, and I think he intimidated her at times, and I think he made her feel like he didn't believe her at times. And so I think we would have gotten a more concise picture of what she was trying to convey if there would have been a different type of interview.
Well, I appreciate that perspective. I didn't come away from those interviews feeling the same. However, I mean, the big obvious difference between you and me is that I am a man and you are a woman, right? It's like I wouldn't have that kind of empathy or the kind of sympathy that you're saying that was probably needed.
Mhm.
I did I did appreciate, well, and that might be, I mean, I think we're agreeing on this. But at the end of the interview, he said some things like, um, "It's not that I don't believe you; it's that I have to prove it." Those were my words, not his. But those were the kinds of things he was saying. I've got to find proof on this, And he was. I did appreciate how long he took going through like the Facebook messages. There was like dead air on those interviews for a long time as he was scrolling through. It did seem like he was taking it seriously. But you're probably right. It probably would have been better had they had a female interviewer there.
I'm sure he took it very seriously, and I'm sure it did his best. I'm not trying to down him, but I just think here's another instance of where, you know sometimes there might just be a better way to go about getting what you're looking for. You know, I
Yeah. No, I hear that. I hear that, and I don't disagree at all. Hey, let me scroll over here to my comments here. Let's hide this. Let's see if there are a couple of comments that we can go through. Tim likes my channel. Well, if you like my channel, you will like Elizabeth's. Go to Hillbilly Crime. It's linked in the description and in the title. Uh, Hello from Nashville, says Lee. It's always good to see you. Let me see if I can. Okay, does Elizabeth know if Judge Mullins was familiar with guns? I don't want to assume since hunting is popular. Any thoughts on that?
Now I heard Judge Mullins carried a his own private. Now I don't know that for sure, but I've heard that he carried one. Um,
You
didn't look
know,
like.
it didn't look like he trained with one. That's one of those things, Elizabeth. Like I have a friend who I go to church with who she teaches women firearm safety and firearm skills. That
Mm,
her big thing is self defense, right? And specifically for women, so it doesn't perfectly apply to Judge Mullins. But one of her main things is you must train. You must train all the time in order for your skill. Well, for in order to react the way that you want to react when something bad happens. And it does appear that Judge Mullins was like, I'm just going to throw up my hands. And, and that just boggles my mind. If a man has a handgun in his hand, he is threatening to kill you. That is the time for action. It is not the time to throw up your hands. You have to
I
jump in
don't think
action.
I don't think Judge Mullins thought Mickey was going to do that. I think the way that I see that video, even after he's shot the first time, I think he's still, the look on his face is absolute shock.
I
Like,
agree.
like frozen, stuck. Like, what are you doing? Even after he comes back up from the table that time, he looks back like, what are you doing? What is happening?
Yeah.
I just think he was taken so off guard by it.
I'm
And
telling.
I can say I can I can Monday morning quarterback it all day long and say, why didn't he fight? Why didn't he jump up? Why didn't he try to wrestle it away from him? But, if you're not in the moment there, you don't never know what you're going to do. Just
Well,
like you're saying, you've got to train
you
to
do.
know what to do.
No, this is. I was watching a video with my family recently that basically, I won't describe it. I'm not going to describe it in detail, but it was a time to fight. It like something was happening, and it was a time to fight, and nobody jumped in. Like it was a video of a man um, attacking his daughter in public, and everybody like got their cameras out, filmed it. Oh, I've called the police. But there is a time to throw down, man. There's just a time to throw down, and uh, you got to train on this stuff. You just I love watching videos where like there's somebody. I saw one in New York City where this man tried to take a woman's baby in her stroller away from her and run away. And there just happened to be a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor right there, and he had that guy wrapped up and on the ground and unable to move. He didn't want to hurt the guy. He just held him there until police came, right? That guy was prepared and saw now is the time to fight. I'm in this fight. And I don't know. I watched Judge Mullins here. I can bring this back around. And if he's somebody who carried, man, he did not train, which is really, really sad because it could have gone another way. I don't
Well, I
know.
guess that would be more self defense, though, right?
Of course. The, if he like the moment a person unholsters their weapon, they're going after you. It doesn't matter if they raise the iron. They're going after you. Man. Oh, goodness. Okay, let's see if there are any other questions for you here. Okay. Lee T says, what are Elizabeth's thoughts on News Nation saying they have sources saying Mickey had stepped out on his wife in the past?
I don't know. I've never heard of any kind of trouble like that in his family. Um,
I mean, this is a small community, right? All play
yeah,
Little League together, play on the high school basketball team together, kind of stuff.
Mickey was a family man. He was all about his family. Like, you could knock me over with a feather if it comes out that that's true.
Mm, wow.
And
Uh,
I also want to point out something too. I said on a different show that, there was, and it's not just me, anybody, you can look at the comments and stuff and see how much support Mickey has in the community. He had a whole lot more vocal support right after this happened.
really?
Oh yeah, it seemed like, people didn't even care what the reason was. If Mickey did this, he had to have a good reason. It was like a lot of the people, their faith was so much in Mickey as such a good dude, that if he did this, which we can see that he did, he there had to be a good reason for it.
What is the response once people saw the video?
The same thing,
Hmm.
the exact same thing. But this is what I didn't say in that last interview or show that we did. There's also a percentage of people who are very upset with Mickey. There's also a percentage of people who just think, this was just flat out murder. This was, and we can see that in that video. That when I watch that, it traumatizes me. You know, he didn't have nowhere to run. He had nowhere to hide. You know what Mickey did. He was judge, jury, and executioner on that
Yeah.
day. you know. And there is a percentage of people here that are just outraged over it, but people aren't talking publicly about it because there's such a backlash that comes with speaking out. You know, people are afraid. They're afraid of being shunned. They're afraid of, being rejected or whatever the
Yeah.
consequence would be.
The That's really interesting. As you were talking about that, uh, when I was on Surviving the Survivor, and which I think you've been on as well, love
Hmm.
Joel, love Carm, love Steve. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I was on with Ned and then the District Attorney General for the state of Tennessee.
Hmm.
Mark was his name. I can't remember his last name, but anyway, they talked about how the defense, the defense lawyers for Mickey Steins are pushing to have the trial in Letcher County. And
Hmm.
over the course of their entire career, they've never heard of a defendant saying, like, of the roles being reversed, where the prosecution's like, we need to get out of Letcher County, and the defense saying, no, 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 I want to be tried amongst a jury of my peers here. So he must feel like he's got plenty of support there in Letcher.
Yeah. Yeah. The defense wants to keep it in Letcher County. I heard Ned also say that the state of Kentucky is a little bit rare. That might be a bad word, but it's different. Whereas there's some kind of a rule or a law or something that allows the prosecutor to ask for a change of venue. And so he think that's what he said in that interview, that he thought, that's what would end up happening, that the prosecutor would end up requesting that, but the defense is not gonna ask for it.
Well, what Ned was describing it to me on Surviving the Survivor and then here on my channel, he called it a time to kill defense, right? It was
Yeah.
like John Grisham novel. It's just like, maybe the defense is Judge Mullen's behavior was so bad he had to die. And in that moment, it was reasonable for Mickey to determine that it's okay to draw down on this guy.
But this is my problem with all of that, is that where's the investigation? I feel like the investigation into Judge Mullins, an investigation isn't just to prove the presence of, it also can disprove or, rule something out, right?
Yeah.
It's not just to prove something happened. So I kind of feel like Judge Mullins has been just absolutely dragged through the mud here. And there's not one piece of evidence, there's not one piece of any kind of evidence that has come forward saying that the judge was this bad guy and that he was doing all this stuff. There's a whole lot of rumors,
Yeah.
but where's the evidence? And you can't really have a time to kill defense without first proving that the victim had done something that was so bad that they deserved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like that part of it is just being completely skipped over. And that's not the
Yeah.
most important
I hear
part.
you. There was a. Did you? I'm sure you did, but did you watch the hearing where Mickey Steins was in the? Is that the Leslie County Jail? I can't remember which county that is. With his attorneys, and it was like the Zoom conference with the judge and with Steins and his team and the AG's office, something like that. Uh, and the defense was asking for a an examination of their client to see if he was criminally responsible. And the
Mm-hmm.
judge was like, well, we should see if he is, well, I can't remember yeah, competent to stand trial. And they're like, we don't really care about that so much. We want to know if he's criminally responsible. That was really an interesting hearing. Like,
Yes, it
we
was.
can all just stipulate that he's competent. How about we move on to to the criminally responsible. So I guess that is a hint at what their defense is going to be. It does seem like they're going to have a defense that Mickey Steins did the right thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's where Mickey, whatever Mickey has to say, is going to be so important.
Do you
You
think
know,
he'll
he's
take the stand on his own defense?
Fish. I don't even think this is going to go to trial.
Probably not. Well,
I
well,
think they're going to plea it.
okay, but what do you think they're going to play it out as?
I don't know, but of course, but I think that they will end up pleading because I don't think that the prosecution really wants to. I don't think the death penalty will be a factor. I don't think he'll get life. I mean, he might, but I don't think he will if they plea it. So I think we're really looking at two options. If they plea it, if they offered him 20 years, would you take it?
I don't know what. Well, the argument that Mark, the Tennessee District Attorney General, and Ned Pillersdorf made on that was in Kentucky, you, you have to serve 85% of your sentence. And
Mhm.
so if he gets 20, that means that he has to do 17, right? Uh, Mickey doesn't. Their argument is Mickey Steins doesn't look like he's all in that good of condition to make 17, 18 years in prison. And what Ned and Mark were saying, or at least what I heard them say, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but what I understood them to argue was he really doesn't have anything to lose. They would advise him to go to trial.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I see a lot of times people if they well, I wish I saw it a lot of times. I wish people would take more of their cases to the box, take it to
Yeah.
trial
Well,
because because I feel like, the criminal justice system bullies people a whole lot, with cases. Now, but with this it's a little bit different, but a lot different.
well, in Pennsylvania, it averages about 99% plea. Or it's actually what I should say is 1% makes it to trial.
Yep.
99% it's plea deals, it's the cases being dismissed, those kinds of
Yep.
things.
And if you
1%.
don't have the money to hire a good lawyer,
Yeah.
you better not take it to trial.
Yeah, there are there are some. I wonder what Letcher County is on that. Do they have a public defender's office? And
Yeah,
is
they have a
there
public defender's office, but it's not like, I don't think that it's like Letcher County. I think it's more of a district.
it,
Um,
so sometimes what they will do is they will there are private attorneys in the area that can be assigned a public defender's case. Uh, like in my county, we have a chief public defender and two assistant public defenders, and they are competent attorneys. Like they're very good attorneys. Uh, but that's probably not the case everywhere, right? I don't know.
yeah, I'm not sure about how that really works here. To be honest with you, I better not speak on it.
Mm, okay. Let's go to some comments here. Jessica Jackson says, Gavin, I think they're afraid and they need to investigate Jennifer Hill's unaliving. It may not be accidental. What are your thoughts on the idea that Jennifer Hill may not have accidentally overdosed?
I
Uh,
think that's a very valid point. I've made it myself. I think that they should absolutely look into that. There have been so many cases here lately in the news of people using Visine, like to put in people's stuff, food and drinks and stuff. It happens a whole lot more than we want to believe. And I'm not convinced that Mickey wasn't somehow accidentally or intentionally exposed. When I see the way that the paranoia, the way that he spoke on the body cam and the dash cam
yeah,
footage, and I've been told by many sources that he had been up for days and days before this happened with no sleep. Well, I've seen people on the methamphetamine around here, and that's how a lot of them act. It just resembled that so much to me. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form saying that I think Mickey was using drugs at all. I don't think he would ever do it in a million years. But that doesn't mean some he couldn't have had some accidental exposure. He actually had one a few years ago, and they even did a story on it.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what the substance was. I think it might have been the F word that unalives people, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Um, but he took himself to the hospital and got treated, and they did a news report on it. So it has happened before, you know.
Hey, speaking
Um,
of the news down there, I've traded phone calls, but I haven't spoken to him yet. There's a reporter at the Mountain Eagle named Sam Adams. He seems to be the guy that is on the ground there in Whitesburg who is covering at least for the local rag, right? And I say that out of love. I work for a local hyper local news organization myself. Uh, what do you think about the local reporting on the case? You don't have to
um,
call out like specifically who or whatever, but what do you think?
we've only got really two newspapers here. You've got the Mountain Eagle and you've got the News Press. It's not, I don't think the News Press is as out there as the Mountain Eagle is. The Mountain Eagle it has their office right down the street from the courthouse, and
Okay.
they've been there for decades. So they have built very good relationships with everybody in that courthouse.
So they do good work. Is that what you're saying? Or they are in the I guess the old boys club, the good old boys club. You don't want to
I,
say. That's cool.
I
That's
don't know. I have no clue. I just know that they've been down the street for decades, and they've built really great relationships, and they're the go to news source for Letcher County.
you know, like a little inside baseball in my county. Um, when I went to work for my organization, it's called EYT Media. One of the big things was we couldn't get anything out of the local like district attorney's office. We couldn't we they wouldn't talk to us, they wouldn't send us media releases, they wouldn't do anything. And yet our competitor had them all the time. Right? And I once interviewed what do I want to be careful like you are. I interviewed a person who was in the know, and another reporter, let's say, okay? And it was before I even knew about this. I was interviewing for a job, and this person told me that they couldn't do things the way that I was suggesting because their relationship with the DA's office was too important to them. And I thought, we're the fourth estate, right? You're the fourth estate. You should not have a relationship with the DA's office. Your job is the check and balance of the DA's office. What are you doing? Right. And I mean, now I'm at an organization where we're on their other side. We are the check and balance, but I sure wish that the DA's office would talk to me sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, you may not know this, Elizabeth, but the world's greatest handle on YouTube is a viewer of mine, Demon Hugger. She lets us all know that sometimes demons need hugs too, apparently. She says Gavin Fields needed Mullins out of the way, so he threatened Steins by way of his family unless Steins took out the judge. That is the theory. How does that ring to you, Elizabeth?
um, I mean, we all have a theory.
I don't feel like Fields has any power in Letcher County, though. Like,
Well, the only power that he had was, I think, past tense. Um, his sister is over the drug court program
right.
for the circuit court. He has other family members that are also in law enforcement, some way, shape, or form. His uncle was the fire chief that he was trying to PIMP out
He did.
Sabrina.
He did.
Yes,
Yeah.
right,
That was the fire
right.
chief?
That was the fire. Yes, the Kings Creek fire chief.
Is he still the Kings Creek fire chief?
I don't think so. He got some time because it went upstairs in front of a different judge. It went in front of Jimmy Kraft, and he didn't even show up for his trial. It just kept getting put off and put off and put off, I guess, and then um, the judge refused to give him any more delays, and he didn't show up for his trial, so they went out and arrested him and brought him in, and then he had his trial, and he was convicted
Of
of messing with a child under, I think she was under 14.
oh wow. Oh
Yeah, but he wasn't charged in that mess with Ben. Ben Fields was the only one charged.
yeah. Yeah, and that indictment was just on Fields. I feel like yeah, I feel like a lot of people were protected by because basically the way Ned told me is that didn't go to trial, it went to mediation. And in
Yes,
mediation, he basically they they negotiated his guilty plea, right? So,
but he
but
pled guilty to all of the
all
charges.
three,
What was there to negotiate?
yeah, probably just what the time would be, what he would get, and he got a sweet deal. I think he got a very good deal. Jessica also says Elizabeth and Gavin, I think they're afraid of what may come out at trial. They, I guess, meaning the powers that be in Letcher County. What that's maybe. Let's see what else are over here. Gavin, maybe that's what the Chapter 30 inquiry was about, trying to get high dollar representation on the taxpayer's dime. No,
No,
Chapter
um,
30 is just how they
it's for
fund.
experts. For experts
Yeah,
is what I understood that to be. So they were asking for funding to hire a mental health expert.
right. Yeah, which as an indigent client, which I think the court, he made the motion for indigence, but I don't know if he was granted the motion of indigence. Do you?
I don't either. I think they did
I think
because they said he had lost his job.
yes. Yeah. Okay, so if so he is indigent, so there would be funding for his defense. Now his lawyers are like a husband and wife duo, and when I looked at them sitting in that hearing, I thought to myself, I'm not so afraid of him, but I think she could take me. She had the best poker face of
She
anyone I've
does.
ever seen, man. Do you know anything about those lawyers?
They are personal injury attorneys.
That's what my
And
commenters said. They're not homicide. They're not
mm-mm,
criminal.
no, I think if I heard it correctly, I didn't know if they said this was their first murder trial or their second. But they're personal injury attorneys, which I think means they're good negotiators and they're probably very good investigators.
I think that's probably a good a good opinion. Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. The a personal injury attorney hardly ever wants to go to court. They they do all their work outside of court. That's a good opinion there. Let me see if there's anything else. Uh, let's see. Tori says just hey, I'm just joining. Gavin, love your channel. Love this Lady Elizabeth from Hillbilly Crimes accent. 100%. My twin sister and I live in McDowell County, North Carolina. Well, welcome. Welcome. I did like Mickey Stein's. You're right. He did sound paranoid in the dash cam video, and that's not something that I've shown on the channel. I think it was out there quite a bit, but he sounded pretty paranoid. But his whole thing, oh man, he sounded so southern. Treat me fair. Treat me fair. It was great.
Well, I had a neighbor, and he was the little coddle boy. He's also in prison right now because he got on the drug that everybody is
Yeah.
struggling with right now. And now before that, he was no saint, trust me. But he wasn't dangerous. He was harmless as far as I was concerned as my neighbor,
Yeah.
right? Um, After he started getting on the meth,
On meth.
yeah, he completely changed. He called the police one night, and because he was freaking out that his neighbor was trying to break in his house to steal his hamburger meat out of his freezer.
Okay.
It's irrational
It's
fear.
random. Yes.
And I saw him, he came up walking by my house one day, and I walked outside to talk to him because he was all disheveled and he was dirty and filthy. He looked like he had just climbed off the mountain, which is exactly what he had done. He had been up in the mountains for 2 or 3 days, scared, absolutely terrified, the same way that I heard Mickey talking about how scared he was, and it
He
was
was afraid that they were going to
irrational.
take him to the woods, right? They like this is not the
Yeah,
way to the jail, guys. This is not the way.
right, right, and that Connell boy, he knew me. He knew I wasn't no danger to him, but the look in his eyes when he was trying to talk to me, like he couldn't comprehend anything that I was saying to him, and he looked at me as a threat. This man was dangerous. Well, he ended up going to prison because he pew-pewed his best friend in the head in the they were in the bathroom in a trailer getting high together, and he unalived his best friend because he all of a sudden thought he was going to tell on him with the cops.
So
This happens a lot with the meth, the paranoia and stuff. But like I said before, I am not saying I think Mickey Steins was ever intentionally taking any kind of drugs because he was dead set against them, you know. But it wouldn't. I mean, it's not too much of a stretch to wonder or to question if he was somehow accidentally exposed or intentionally exposed.
hmm, that yeah, I mean, I have to admit he was acting strange. Uh, Go
And
ahead.
if they would have given him if they would have tested him after this incident, if they would have took him to the hospital and had a tox screen done. Now I realize that that takes a search warrant, but we saw on that dash cam footage that the lead detective was at the courthouse before they ever took Mickey out of there. He knew, I mean, that's his job, right? He
Yeah,
would know who to call to get a search warrant to take him to the hospital to get
sure.
his blood.
Yeah. Well,
And
do can they do blood draws at the jail, or does it have to be done at the hospital?
I don't know.
I don't either.
But like I said, it doesn't just prove the presence of, but it also rules things out.
Yes. Yeah, we would know, or they would know one way or the other. The
Right.
the the paranoia. I guess. Oh, I had a question for you on that. Oh, I guess it's not a question; it's an observation. But it also could be that Mickey Steins is an experienced law enforcement officer and understands that if he acts crazy, that could work to his benefit later. So, I mean, that goes to your point, right? Had they done the talks, they would know he's on something or he's not. And they would be able to make that argument in court. If they knew he wasn't on anything and yet he's acting paranoid like this, they could make an argument in court that he was acting for the purpose of his future, prosecution, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't think juries like the whole defense of, you know, not criminally responsible because of temporary legal insanity. I don't think I was in, I have to rephrase this. I wasn't in a trial. I was covering a trial for work. I was in the gallery sitting in this murder trial a few months back. And I've put in a request to get this video because I want to share it on my channel. But this guy, after he was placed into a state police, cruiser, into the back of the cruiser, and they pointed the dash cam inside at him, and he looked like the Joker. Like he was so crazy and so high on, well, what the prosecution claimed was that he was high. The defense claimed he was in the middle of a schizophrenic episode. But he looked like Elizabeth, he looked like the Joker. It was the craziest, like a distended face, a giant grin. It looked like I can't even describe it any other way. And yet when I looked at that, I was like, oh, because toxicology showed nothing in his body. And so I was like, that is definitely a schizophrenic break, but the jury didn't buy it at all. They found him guilty. I don't think juries like the whole legal insanity defense. I just don't think they like it.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
agree.
Well, we've had you for an hour now. Thank you very much. I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything you want to plug? Are you going live tonight? What are you doing on your channel?
Yeah, 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to go live, and we're just going to discuss this temper claim and
Okay.
see what our viewers think about it. We have a lot of viewers from this area that chime in, so
Cool.
we'll
So in
have
about an hour and a half, you're going to be going live on Hillbilly True Crime or Hillbilly Crime. Guys, if you have not subscribed yet to Elizabeth's channel, please go over and do that. There's a link in the description below. There's also a link in the title. Go over and subscribe. Here in about an hour and a half, she'll go live talking more. Are you going to have your mom on?
if she's still awake, she will be.
Yeah. She's the best. She's awesome. She's about the cutest thing ever.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thanks, Elizabeth, for joining me. I appreciate it. And thanks so much. And then everybody else, let me hide this. Let me just do a quick plug, some shameless self-promotion. Head over to my website, gavinfish.com, for information on all the cases that I do. You can also see the headlines that I'm following over on CrimeCod. While on CrimeCod, you can subscribe to my newsletter. I invite you to do that. Also, if you're on Facebook, head on over to the Fish Tank and join us there. We're having a good time over there. With that, I will bid you adieu, and I will see you tomorrow night, 7:30. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.